Good evening. Good evening. How are you? I don't know. I'm not feeling too good. How about you guys? We, maybe it's just a food coma, but I suddenly became, extremely tired. I think I've been kind of ground down by this changing schedules to wake up in the morning. It's really... Today's the first day when I felt very tired. It's not easy waking up in the morning, I'll tell you guys. 42. You wish I would remember the smart quotes. Oh, man. By the way, masturbate with the Levon Aronian quote. This is cheesy, man. Chess is a game of balance and harmony, where you have to find the right moves to create a symphony on the board. That sounds really cheesy. Much as I like Levon, and I know that Levon is a big fan of music. His good taste in music. But that's a cheesy quote. Cheesy quote warning. Alright, Panda, wake up, man. What's up? Hey, ow! $42 has gifted a tier 1 sub to Phil. That's 2 days ago. Alright, that's an old news. 42, you were here, though. I'm going to try not to project my negativity on the stream today. So, we are here. We're doing analysis stream. Thursday analysis stream. We don't talk about what happens at Fight Club stays at Fight Club. Right? Everyone understands that? I hope I'm not getting a cold, though. It's a little weird that you suddenly start feeling very tired when your daughter's sick, and I've been lucky for a while. Alright. Don't work too hard, guys. You might come down with something. But, I've got games. We've got games. Let's get it started. So, I've got Astrobate, Nefedov, Mule Skinner, and Nefedov again. What? No, I got... There has to be a mistake somewhere. My game from the latest tournament, quite characteristic, I would say, for the analysis today. That's insane. This didn't happen. Wow. So, let's... We've got the same game from both players. We should analyze the game twice from white and black's perspective. Can I change that? Nefedov is white. Sun Prism is black. We've never done this before. I've had two players submit the same game. Must have been a good game. Two players submit the same game. Very weird. All right. Well, anyway, we'll start with Astrobate, guys. Don't miss out on Spiel in Chapter 2. Okay. Let's do that. Thank you, Mr. Drained. I did time pressure to myself again. I used all my time. I had a good position. I used all my time until I had 6 minutes left for 19 moves. It's fucking stupid. It's been a while since I really did it. I really did the time thing to myself, you know. With 20 moves to make the time control, I had 6 minutes to my opponent's 30. What would I do this? Why do I do this to myself? Whenever there's an increment, I think I'm not practical, you know. All right, let's grab the Mr. Slow game. Mr. Slow and famous. Hopefully, Rudolph Spielman plays better than I do. Pete Davidson. Okay. Oh, I can't copy it. That's good. All right, we'll copy it this way. Chapter PGN. Copy PGN. Copy PGN. Add a new chapter. Welcome, everybody. I had a coffee. It didn't seem to help me too much. I feel like I just got hit over the head with a bag of sand or something. And I don't understand why. I mean, I got enough sleep. I'm supposed to have enough rest. Played a tournament game, but that's life, you know. Mr. Cheesy has tip 2579. Not Mr. Chessy. No, Mr. Chessy. Mr. Chessy, sorry. No, it's Mr. Cheesy. Mr. Cheesy has tip 2579. Rounding it out, 2579. 2579. Is that my future ELO rating? Mr. Cheesy. Hi, Tomas. Got your message, but I'm having a bad day. I was supposed to win today. That didn't happen. I'm working 2 jobs now. Morning, I'm selling my rating points for. In the morning, I sell my rating points for money, and then in the evening, I do chess coaching. So it's hard to get back to people's messages. Working 2 jobs like that. Right now, I'm getting 20. What is it? 20 euros per rating point. Pretty good. The current rate is 20 euros per rating point. The problem is, you know, it's hard to replace these rating points. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get them back at all. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind, you know, selling my rating points for money. It's so hard to get the things back, or impossible. It seems like everyone's underrated. And I live in a country of rating poverty. Alright, so should we start with Mr. Spielman? Then. The economy here in Hungary is bad all around. The chess economy as well. Alright, so Yox Davidson, player I've never been familiar with. I guess he was born in 1890 in Amsterdam. He was a Dutch chess master. You want to go Acer first? It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to Acer first. But, you know, whatever. We'll do Acer first. It's a little lighter. I'll get warmed up. So you brought us at the 47,579. I was wondering if that number had any significance. Mr. Slohan just donated. I mean, Mr. Cheesy. Normally taking us up to. He's taking us up to an uneven number. 475.79. I was hoping that. What was it now? 25.79 would be my new ELO rating. It's more like 22.79. So anyway, Astrobates White against Texaner. Knight f3, d6. So I told him today that when Black tries to build the wall, you know, vote for Kamala Harris. Well, it's a little too late for that. But anyways, I like e4 here for acerbate. I like d4 here for acerbate, and I like c4. Although he's not really playing straight up Englishes, but b3 doesn't seem as good. You know, you're not preventing black from achieving really like a legitimate setup. Triggering people, that's cool, man. Reverse psychology. He's triggering. Alright. I understand now the psychology behind it. b3. Now black should play e5. But strangely, Acerbate's opponent, he had another opponent who played knight f6. And I was wondering, like, why, you know, here's Acerbate's last opponent did this. Knight f6, bishop b2, g6. Well, then explain to me why black is playing d6 if you're not going to play e5. I'm not really understanding why. There's Planinich, of all people, 1972. We know that was a good year, Mr. Slow. Again, you know, I don't understand why, but white plays b3 and now black plays e6. So the small center defense, nothing wrong with that. Reminding me a little too much of my game today, which was good until it was bad. Yeah, what you get for being creative is nothing. You know, you get no reward for being creative. Bishop b2, 97. So it looks like black's trying to play some kind of offbeat opening like the hippo, you know. Now, but there's no time to really play a hippo because he has, you know, so this isn't good for black. c4, reasonable. And now knight d7. Okay, so you're fancy, you put your knights on the center, you know, you're playing a half hippo. Maybe you can play b6, but basically it's not a great opening for black. White should consider occupying the center here. With e4, I know Nefedov, you've tried to tell me a million times to stop being creative, and I just can't help myself. So Nefedov, I agree, but you know, Acer is playing a hyper-modern opening here. He doesn't want to occupy the center, so he plays e3. And now black plays d5. That doesn't make sense. I mean, black's played d6, d5 now, wasting time. Fancy cow opening. I don't think that's a real thing. It's made up. Speaking of being creative, knight c3, and now black, after moving the d-pawn 2 times, plays d takes c4. And I've told him a million times that, you know, he should be willing to take with the b-pawn in the center to gain more central preponderance of pawns and absolute ironclad control of d5. But Acerbate is kind of, you know, a creature of habit. He always takes with the bishop, no matter what the situation is. It's still not a bad move, developing a piece. Okay, and then this. So black is really strange and weak. Now, I agree this is the right move here, keeping the bishop pair. But he has this other thing he started doing where he just checks. This is a really bad, very bad moment for this move. I mean, black's worst bishop is the bishop at c8. The other one's not looking too good, but it can come out at least. The bishop at c8 is blocked by pawns in both directions. So you're helping him play bishop d7 here, bro. This is a bad move, I think. I mean, after bishop d7, black's still clearly worse, but I don't think you're helping yourself. You know, so you got to stop playing this bishop b5 check. It's like a spike check. Now, luckily, black didn't have the sense to play bishop d7, so he plays c6. And that entombs his own bishop, you know, so this was fortunate that he played that move, bishop e2, and now knight to g6. And now white has this extra central pawn. Acerbate, though, clinging to these, like, security devices. Security blanket. Rook c1, we always do that. Bishop b5 check, we always do that. check, check, bishop d6. That's probably black's most normal move of this game. Now you have knight e4. And you saw it. Oh. Oh no. That's a problem for black. He's going to need to either play bishop f8 or yield the bishop pair. He castled. And now Asterbate could content himself with simply taking that valuable extra bishop with a slight advantage. Maybe more than slight. But Asterbate here goes for the jugular with h4. And I think this is a really spicy meatball. While some players might say that this move is unsound or too aggressive or wild, I think this move might actually be good. It might be justified, you know. Because black's play has been so slow. I think a lot of players, routine players, would condemn this as being incorrect. I think that you can absolutely play knight takes d6 and you're better. But h4... Black has a problem with this not only hitting his knight, but also h6, which is going to loosen up that whole diagonal. So I think that black needs to seriously consider maybe playing like h6, the so-called pawn stop, to ensure that white can't advance further than h5. And, you know, the worst news of all for black here is that, you know, h8 doesn't look very good, so he probably has to go here. And in that case, I still think that white should strongly consider taking this bishop. But other moves are good as well. You know, queen c2, eyeing the king's side. Anyway, I like h4. As I said, I think that black should play h6. He plays this, but this is going to allow the h-pawn to just rampage. There's one good thing about queen e7. He could force an exchange of bishops with the move bishop a3. But the problem is he has no time. So Asterbate, I don't think you should take this now. You know, I think you should wait. This is more important. Go ahead and just play h5. Alpha Zero says you're winning here. That's like fatal. That's fatal. I mean, there is nothing that black can do. Dude, this is totally fatal. It's a pity you didn't play h5. Because black basically has to play knight h8. And now you have h6, and that is a crusher. Black is like lost. He's just lost. There literally is no defense. The only attempt to defend here might be something like f6. And it looks really horrible. f6, pawn takes pawn, king takes. And how long is black going to last here? Ugh. Not very long, Asterbate. You hesitated, you took here, and then you played h5. That was a bad combo. You know, you should have kept the knight on, because the knight keeping pressure on f6 there. This is strong, but I think the other way was stronger. And this is ridiculous. So black just hangs a piece. But you're still killing him. You're still killing him. Obviously, you're still killing him. I mean, after knight e7, h6, and black is in a really bad place. Nevertheless. So he hangs a piece with knight e5, f6, knight f3, rook f7, rook h4. That's a nice way. Caro-Kann style. Classical Caro-Kann style. Ashish Raina, subscribing with tier 1. Nice. Subscribing 2 months. Scribe. You're an official scriber. Thank you for subscribing. Yeah, this is over. Anyway, this is just a little miniature. Queen d5, rook d4, very beautiful. Access to d8. queen h5, rook check, rook f8, king f8. You gotta watch this. Not even that is a big deal. I don't mind that you gave that pawn up. And now knight g1. This is not an inspired move. I think we save the knight g1 and go for him, you know, with something like queen c2 heading for c5. We hope for the check here, and then we could play bishop f1. Hope chess. But I still think this is better. You went here, bringing your knight back to g1. Ugh. Not the best, but it'll work. e5, and now d4. Unfortunately for black, he just doesn't have any compensation for the extra piece. Although, this knight on g1 is not very inspiring, Acerbate. Check, g6, another... That's the bishop's second probe. It went to b5 with check, got hit by c6. That wasn't enough. Then it had to go to h5 and get hit by g6. Black, you know, at this rate is going to come back, man, to save the game. h5, d takes e5, and then this. And he just trades off a very good bishop there. And now your bishop gave up his life to break through decisively and mate. Okay, a good little mature. Nothing to see there. I hope none of the viewers were too shocked by the bloodshed there in our first game. Alright, let's do Jacques. Jacques Davidson now. Hope our younger viewers weren't too shocked by the amount of bloodshed in the Acerbate game. Alright. That was very nice. Very nice, Acerbate. Brutal. Nice mate. So... Alright, we're going the wrong color. Okay, we're black, and we're the legendary Rudolf Spielmann. And this is a series, not series, but this study collection of games was submitted by none other than Mr. Slow, our premier sponsor here on the stream. Mr. Slowhand. Do I have to donate for you to analyze a game with me? No, but you have to be a subscriber at least. And that's not really a donation, but it is sort of. That's not a donation per se. We only analyze games with subscribers. It's a way of giving back and saying thank you for being a subscriber. But as my dad said, you don't have to do anything but pay taxes and die. And if you live in, it depends on what country you live in. d4, e6, knight f3. So this is Jacques Davidson, a lesser known master, Dutch master against Spielmann. So nothing wrong with the old d4, e6, knight f3, and now c5. So this is a provocative move, allowing, first of all, the Sicilian, and secondly, possible d5. However, d5, we just take. We're going to gain time with knight f6. So that's not really recommended. Nothing wrong with the move c5. Please pin it if you think. You don't have much things but pay taxes and die. .42 has tip 1421. Up to 490. We're up to 490. Thank you, 42. Alright, guys. So black is offering white the chance to transpose to the Sicilian with e4. Chemistry. Yeah, I struggled with physics. I try to avoid physics. In school. I had like pre-physics, and that was enough for me. I didn't want to do physics. c3. Now, this is a very boring move that, you know, should result in the removal of your soul to another plane of existence. White is basically playing the Slav in reverse. Extremely, excruciatingly solid move by white. It's more ambitious even to play e3. And alternatively, white has a lot of options. I mean, g3, obviously the most aggressive move, e4. Maybe even knight c3 isn't bad on the circumstances, because black has played e6. c4 obviously transposing to an English. So, you know, pretty much anything but bishop f4. One of Astorbate's favorite traps, we should mention, is the old, like, c takes d4, knight takes d4, e5, which wins a piece with the piece fork and queen a5 check. So that's pretty much the only way you can lose a piece and lose the game quickly here with white playing bishop f4. But c3 is the choice of white. Now he was a master. Black plays knight f6, and now, you know, nowadays we would see either bishop g5, bishop f4, e3, the Coley system, or Coley, or possibly g3, like a Schlechter Slav in reverse. Not very inspiring, but playable. But white instead chose to play knight on bd2 here. This is, you can see from the opening explorer, a very rare move. And it's okay, I guess. Again, you're like playing the Slav in reverse. You can't take back with the e-pawn, so the more common way to play the Coley would be e3, so you could take back with e takes d. So after this, for example, black could play pawn takes pawn, and that would result in an extremely grossly boring position, which I don't think that you know, I would want to play, to be honest. If I'm Schliemann, I wanted to call him Schliemann. If I'm Spielmann here, you know, I'm sure this is going to be an inspiring game, but dude, we're really not that happy to play this move, honestly. But I will agree with one thing, like on principle, I think this is a good move. The problem is that it may lead to very drawish types of positions, very kind of dry types of positions with a symmetrical pawn structure. So even though it may technically be black's best move, I mean, I think it's close, honestly. I mean, d5 has to be a good move. Transposing back to a Coley system. Knight c6 has to be a good move, but allows e4, which could be kind of sharp. You know, same thing with b6. So I think, you know, objectively this is probably a correct move. But now we get the symmetrical pawn structure. So how is Rudolf Spielmann going to beat this solid guy who plays boring chess now? Now even Cheesy Noob doesn't go for this stuff, this super boring. He'll normally get the bishop out to g5 and trade it for a knight. So how are we going to get anything interesting here? Again, a principled move by black, but what other options do we have? Anything else allows e4. I mean, barring queen a5, which is always a bad move, d5 is the only move that prevents white from establishing a strong center. So d5 is correct. Okay, but now what? White, I think, really ought to consider playing g3. For example, instead he plays e3. And now black plays knight to c6. White plays the very passive bishop e2 now. And I think this is going a bit too far. Neutrino Wombat says, I can deal with it somewhat if I have to calculate something. Ah, you're talking about math. All right. So, the problem with this move may be that white was concerned about knight to b4, but objectively, Is that good? Yeah, it probably is, right? Because, for example, actually, let's see bishop b1. No astrobate, not bishop b5 check. What would happen if bishop b1? Does black have anything here? You try to do like b6, bishop a6, but it's too slow. We don't have time. We'll kick you out. You can try bishop d7, but again, you know, we don't have time. We're getting kicked back. So, as far as I'm concerned, bishop e2 is a little bit exaggerated. You can see here white played a3 and bishop d3. Both of these are reasonable players, it looks like. But this is really passive for white. And now bishop d6. Okay, so at this point, you know, Rudolf Spielmann likes to play in the center. You know, we're going to see e5, I think. Most likely. It's almost like white's playing the black side of the Kali system, and black's playing the white side of the Kali system. That's what it seems like now. So after castles, I thought we'd see e5. Problem is it allows a lot of simplification, trade of pieces. Anyway, it can't be stopped, objectively. So I would castle. Oh my god. Wow. So Rudolf Spielmann channeling the later stoned Emery Tate. Chicago, 1998. This rook g8 move. I keep mentioning Emery every tournament, every stream. All right, I mean, it's not easy to beat like a player who's playing like dry passive, but I really thought we would see something more correct here for black, like castles. See here, Grosar beat a 2250 by playing correct chess in 1994. B3. Okay, so Alyosha did 94. That's an idea. You can play like a Stonewall type of setup. I think this is much more like correct play by the Slovenian grandmaster. But Queen c7 a bit odd in this position because the c file might come back to haunt us. But I'll say one thing, you know, there are some lines in the exchange Slav with colors reversed, which this basically is an exchange Slav. There are some lines in the exchange Slav where that happens. You put the queen on c2 to pressure into that pawn there, induce a weakness. It actually worked here. He induces white to play h3. In a way, this move is like you're threatening to do what Grosar did, but white won't be able to take because his h2 pawn would be hanging. It's an interesting idea. They're ultimately like that queen will probably have to move again over here out of the way of the c file. It's also one of the few ways that black can directly fight for control of the e5 square. Notice if you put the queen on e7, you're not directly controlling e5. You have to get in e5 in order to control that square. This is a controversial move, but quite interesting. But now white, you know, here there's a game where white played a3, a very natural move. And that's the second point. There may be ideas knight b4. In addition to the diagonal. But this is lame. I mean, h3 looks really weak to me. I see that this might be a threat, but is it really? So if white plays like b3, let's just check with the engine. White is white is okay. It's not absolutely necessary to move any rook pawns in this position. No rook pawns were harmed in the creation of this game. But rook pawn moves turn out to be very popular in this position. Less pawn moves, the better. So we have one a3 and one h3. The a3 might be better, though, not to weaken the king's side. h3, and now an unbelievable move by black. If you saw like Hikaru playing bullet chess, I wouldn't at all be surprised by like g5. I could see that being played in like a fast game. Black just sacking a pawn, hoping to have some play on the open line. Maybe I can castle queenside. It's kind of bullshit, but it might work. But with this move, we forfeit any chance to castle kingside and go for the hardcore g5. But I don't think this is in a vacuum. Like black isn't playing this move like he's Emery Tate, like stoned, playing blitz chess or something. This move is played in a specific position because Spielman felt it was justified. It wasn't just a random bullshit move. But it is a striking move, I have to say. This is not an everyday thing to do, and it could lead people to playing really badly if they try to copy this. Do not try this at home. I would say if the queenside were closed, there were no open file, it would be more normal to do something like this. But because there's an open line here, it's a higher risk play. I mean, castling queenside is not a no-brainer with a half-open c file necessarily. If you put a pawn on c2 and a pawn on c5, I think that looks like a queen's gambit. And it would be pretty rare to see such a move as rook g1 in the queen's gambit now, wouldn't it? But that's likely because the position can open up in the center. Here the center is fixed. So I think that in that sense, the rook g8, g5 rammed the pawns down. It has some logic to it. But the one thing on the downside is that half open c file. So white plays queen c2, pinning black on the c file, pinning the knight to some degree. Now g5. So h3 is a lever for black to possibly open up the white king side. And obviously this is the kind of thing that black is banking everything on, that unnecessary h3. The whole thing's set up by queen c7. Is it objectively sound? I think it's close. Now white could have reacted, like routinely here, maybe b3. And if black goes g4, white probably has to take, and we can take both ways. But it looks a little tricky because we've got problems with h7. I want to take with the knight. So I think that black would play h5, most likely. If a quiet move b3, we play h5, and then we go for g4. We're not going to see g4 right away. But instead, white reacts with active play in the center, which is, kind of a principled thing to do. They say you should answer a flank attack with a strike in the center, but objectively, white's not very well developed either. So this is kind of a close call. If I trade, white's getting more unraveled, it looks like. And white's threatening e5, shutting us down completely. So this looks like a good try, And black has no time for h5 now, so he goes g4. Well, what's the idea? H takes g4, Now we could take with a rook, but again we're getting forked by e5. Rudolf Spielmann has been known to sacrifice a piece here and there. This is kind of coffee house. Knight takes g4, and we're blocked. The queen takes a7 is not there now. But what I'm wondering is, like, what happens on, say, pawn takes pawn? I mean, this obviously could benefit black by opening up this bishop on c8. But I mean, all the nice little tricks in the world, I can't see how black's gonna force mate or... I mean, this would be cute if we could do like rook h6 or something. It's very hard for me to believe that that works. I'm having trouble believing that that is a legitimate thing. Mainly because, I mean, white could control h6 with the bishop on c1. This doesn't look like enough to me. So the answer, or the question rather, is what would black do on pawn takes pawn? Anybody? I mean, it looks like we have to take back, but then now this is available. For example, I don't know if black wants to sacrifice that. Maybe we have something fancier. Let's go crazy. Knight takes d4. Knight takes d4. Check. You know, I'm not seeing it. I am not seeing it here. This is like coffee house and bullshit. No, there's no mate here. So we're gonna need a move for black. And I don't really understand what it is. I think you have to take back. And if you take back, now this is hanging. And that might be a greedy move, but white has other options as well. And this king is just chilling in the middle of the board. I mean, there's the e-file, there's Astorbate's favorites, spike check on b5, and a lot of lines. I again am skeptical. This is a nice check you've got here. Or, for example, we could do this first. Check, here, takes, and take back. But what's the threat? What is black's threat here? I mean, we could check with the engine. It's unsound. It's unsound. Yeah. So rook g6 is the best move. Holy shit. It's still not good enough, though. Damn. So you can't play bishop h2 check. We can't play bishop h2 check. My feeling is that pawn takes pawn might be a problem. What if Rudolf Spielmann just... What if he just wanted to, like, sack a pawn or something? You can't do this stuff. If takes here... That's my mouse acting up again. Now our rook's hanging. I mean, what's his plan? Something like rook g6? This psycho? Let's take a look with the engine. Yeah, this is coffee house bullshit. So, pawn takes pawn is the best move. Damn, bro. Oh no, it's switching to Astorbate's favorite bishop b5. But I like pawn takes pawn. But seriously, after pawn takes pawn, queen takes h7, Spielman has a move. And I don't have any analysis on this game, but I missed it. It's not very exciting, but it's a try. Black can play knight e7. And this defends the rook. It also threatens bishop f5. It looks like the black king can probably chill out, you know, even if a check is popped in there. It's possible this king could even go to d8 or something, but you can obviously play bishop d7. So, white probably should have gone with this pawn takes pawn. Instead, Spielman's opponent, and it looks like white is slightly better after this. He plays e5, and this is like waving a red flag in front of bull. Now you're practically begging black to sacrifice a piece somehow. Yeah, then again, maybe it's not necessary. Knight takes d4. You got to admit, though, this move also looks playable. e5. And I knew this was coming, but I just wasn't sure how it worked. It's a little trap. Oh, no. Oh, no. You've got an in-between check. White played queen takes h7 now. Bro. Why would you do a thing like that? You play queen takes h7. So if you play queen takes c7, knight takes f3 check, knight takes f3, bishop takes c7. I guess, damn, we just end up like white's just down a pawn there. And knight takes, pawn takes, just some kind of, yeah, in-between move. Oh no. So we just straight up allowed the tactic here, winning that central pawn. I hope you're better. We all like you. I'm better. Do I want to know what you're probing for? Yeah, so this is just a blunder. He had to do pawn takes pawn. This hangs the central pawn. Well, I mean, except for this obvious move, queen takes h7. But this doesn't seem to work, you know? Like, how does this work? I guess we expected knight takes f3 check. Like, Davison thinks he's winning a piece. Knight takes f3 check. I mean, is he ever winning a piece? Like, let's say knight takes f3 check. Bishop takes f3. I mean, black can play knight f6, obviously, and black's fine. Well, fine, basically fine. Is it like pawn takes doesn't work? Knight takes? Knight takes is probably the best move. Again, knight f6. So, material is even, but black's king is in the middle. Alright. Queen takes h7, knight f6. And now white did queen h4. There's something about the white queen that I don't like here. He had no choice, otherwise he was losing a pawn. And now knight f6, queen h4. That queen looks funky there. Knight g6. Maybe he'll have more luck trapping his opponent's queen than I do. Queen h4 doesn't look right. You know, there is an ugly move here, but it needs to be considered. Queen b1. We can't like ignore obvious candidate moves just because they're optically ugly, you know? Not putting the queen in that area where it's like to get trapped by the black pieces might actually be a better try. That's toast too. Just brute force. We're going to do like knight g4 with brute force. Brute force against h2 or what? Yeah. This looks good. Though it's not a no-brainer. I mean, you know, you would think like, oh, well, yeah, maybe White could try moving his rook or something, you know, here. But you're going to get ripped apart by sacrifices like knight takes f2. That's why Mr. Slow. H-file. H-file. Yeah, this was a very successful coffee house game. Queen h4, knight g6. The queen is trapped. Basically trapped. But this is a cute move. Knight f4. So now the knight is hanging on f6. We're threatening knight h3 as well as knight e2. So I mean, you know, I expect White to take on f6 here. So where's the finishing blow? We just take. We get to the h-file. Oh no. Oh no. But wait. Oh no. There's this. Dude. Black's winning. That's not easy to know though. Black's winning. Queen takes e5, d takes e5. Black's up a pawn. I mean, alright, b6. No, Black's not up a pawn. Black's just better. Black's just better positionally and almost mating White at the same time. It's cute. Alright, not surprising Queen b1 is bad too. White's already busted. Knight g6, Queen g5, Knight f4, Bishop check, and this doesn't help. Astrobate, spite checks don't help. King e7 defending the knight on f6. And now Queen h6, and then Bishop d7. Now the Queen is really trashed, you know, with the rooks coming. If we don't have mate, that is, if we don't have mate. But, you know, the game really hinges on that passive opening by White. But more importantly, he had his chance. You know, he has to play here. He has to play something sensible here. Pawn takes pawn, I like. Pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. Now you can actually get away with this. Knight e7, knight b3, bishop f5, bishop b5 check, and now king d8, and then queen h5. White finds a square here. If you can't find a square, make a square. Draw! Force draw. Oh shit. It's a draw repetition. Oh no. Obviously. Queen e6, bishop f5, and then knight c5. Jesus Christ. Bishop takes c5. Queen f7, bishop g6. Queen e6, bishop f5. Obviously it was a draw all the way. If this was me playing black, I would have like around, I don't know, move 21. Instead of like winning, I would have like gotten in time pressure, fucked up my position, and lost against Jocks Davidson. Alright. Instructive though. You know, it's a good coffee house game. I mean, I don't think that rook g8 is the most correct, but it's justified. I'll call it like almost justified. He didn't want to play, a routine position where white probably would have had good chances to get a draw. He could have played something like bishop d7, maybe keeping his powder dry for a moment. Now, what would happen if you did like bishop d7, b3, and then rook g8? It might make a difference because white might have time to like clog up the e5 square, something like that. I'm curious what the computer thinks about rook g8. It doesn't like it. I wonder why. Yeah, I mean it's an Emery Tate drug move. But I love a good rook g8, man. It's inspired for that time, I would say. And as Spielman, you had to play it. He's definitely playing for a win. Now today we have a special game. It's a double-headed dragon. We have Sung Prism versus Nefedov, and Sung Prism Nefedov versus Sung Prism, and Nefedov versus Sung Prism. We're gonna look at the game from both sides, and I'll do it like I lived on a desert island. I was playing against myself, Let's see if we can objectively analyze the same game twice from the other perspective. Right? This will be kind of fun. So let's start with Nefedov's side, because he's sending the game first. Nefedov is white. Yeah, he sent it in too. Nefedov's white. Black plays the French. By the way, yesterday I played Queen E2, and my fucking opponent offered a draw after 10 moves. And I didn't, he's kind of a friend, and I wanted to play, but I didn't expect him to do that, I got guilted into taking 2 draws in this stupid tournament. Both of them, coincidentally, are when I'm white. People are offering me draws who are, friendly acquaintances. In this case, a guy who played on our team for the Panda and Horses. Isn't it funny how people always offer me draws when they're black? Weird. Anyway, yesterday I played that. I had an interesting game with Zentai. I was better. I just show you guys quickly. He played this. He'd never played this before. He played the Sicilian. I played knight f3. He plays knight c6. I played g3. He plays g6, and this is like a recommended line. And I played bishop g2, bishop g7, c3, knight on g to e7, knight a3, castles, and now castles. My opponent played d6, and I played this move, d4. Over the board inspiration. And the pawn sacrifice has been played by Kozubov, who lost to a 2200. And fucking Ferdzik, as Joel Benjamin called him. But Zentai here, I don't know if he just didn't like his position or knew that we're friends and I'll probably accept a draw even though I didn't really want one. He played pawn takes pawn, and then he was afraid to take the pawn. Computer says bishop takes d4 is the best move, but you got to have big balls to be a computer. And so the guy plays d5 and offers me a draw. And Kozubov lost to this guy 2200 here. But after e5, white is better. I wasn't sure though, to be honest. If I was sure I was better in this position, I wouldn't take a draw even against a friend. But I was like, all right, it's probably equal. It's hard to evaluate. I'm not sure if I'm overextended or I have a space advantage. But apparently white is significantly better here. So I just keep giving away my whites. And I hate playing chess in the morning. Anyway, that I just thought was interesting. I would mention it, since I haven't played I haven't played a Chigorin variation in over the board game since like a million years ago when I played. Yeah, I thought, okay, it's probably equal. I wouldn't be surprised if the engine said that black was like better by 0.1, but it's like I flicked it on and I was like, fuck, you know. White has a solid little advantage here. It looks like it's plus half a pawn. So I got kind of like robbed there. I'm seriously better. But anyway, whatever. You know, cry me a river. Stop offering me draws with the black pieces and using our friendship as an excuse. White plays d4. This is Nefedov, not me. And Sun Prison plays d5. Nefedov plays knight to c3 now. And black playing the classical variation with knight f6. And now Nefi. Oh, by the way, guys, I have this funny idea. Sometimes I play a3 in Blitz. This is unsound, surprisingly. Inspired by Nefedov. Alright, knight c3, knight f6, bishop g5, and now black's best move, I believe, is pawn takes pawn. But I'm not... You know, I almost played the Tarash against Zentai yesterday. But, you know, he played a McCutcheon too. I couldn't be sure to play this. He's played everything. I wouldn't know what he would play, you know. I wouldn't mind playing this. But bishop e7 is solid. e5, knight fd7, and now Nefedov playing the Alekhine Chatard attack. Now, honestly, I don't think I've ever played the... I don't think I've ever played the French black side of a Alekhine Chatard attack against Nefedov. Black's supposed to... what is Black supposed to do? Black's supposed to play... I don't know. I thought, like... Actually, I don't know. You're supposed to take the pawn, right? Are you supposed to take the pawn or not? I don't know what I don't know what like the recommended continuation is for black nowadays. Maybe what Sun Prison did. H6 seems to have a good score. It has the best score. It seems to have clearly the best score for black. H6. It seems to me like A6 is played, right? But now this looks like very, very strong. So either you take the pawn. What about c5? c5 is complex, right? Here's Korchnoi losing again. c5 is complex. Bishop takes e7. Queen takes or king takes. Ah, wasn't there some Nigel Short game? I'm not seeing any Nigel Short games. Oh yeah, there it is. I thought so. Short played this. Now, I don't know. This game is older than I thought. But this one, I think it was this one. It was Adam Hunt against Nigel. Check this out. Have you guys seen this? Does that show it? Does that show the players' names? This is Adam Hunt against Nigel. Bishop takes, and Nigel played, you know, queen takes e7. Normally the move is king takes e7. So queen takes e7. Now that's a different position. I'm on this board, right? We're on this board, sorry. So bishop takes e7 and now queen takes e7. This is crazy. And then knight b5, castles. Knight c7, knight c6. I don't know what the status of this is. Knight c7 and short plays knight c6. And then white takes a rook on a8. And I don't know, the computer says it's bad. But computers are notoriously bad with like capturing rooks in the corner of the board and horizon effect. So maybe short just got away with this. Maybe it's not really objectively sound. but I wasn't sure. I wasn't short. C takes d4. He ended up drawing the game against the IM. But I don't know the final. Anyway, back to our other game. Back to the real deal. So, guys, I don't know anything about this. Thanks to the donation from 42 earlier, by the way. So h4. I'm just trying to understand what the best move is for black objectively. Taking the pawn, probably. You got to know what you're doing. So h6, and now queen h5 from Nefedov. And so it looks like this has very rarely been played. But there's a couple of very strange factors here. Okay, the first thing is that Emmanuel Berg is a French defense player. And he's playing this line with white in 2002. And then again in 2019. And then the second thing that's weird, okay, there's a Glazirov game. Or chess mood, or one of those chess moods. By the way, guys, speaking of chess mood and stupid names for stuff, what's up with, like, what's that tournament? Freestyle Grand Slam? Wait, is it just my imagination? Or was that the name of, like, a Wendy's breakfast special? Like, I'm serious. That chess tournament sounds way too much like, I mean, not Wendy's, Denny's. Sorry, Wendy's. It's a Denny's Grand Slam freestyle? It was Grand Slam home style. Okay. It sounds like a breakfast special. So you need another name for this tournament. Anyway, Nefedov with queen h5. This is some kind of weird offbeat line. Cremoso. There's another game where Anton Guijarro was black back in 2012. And Glazirov, a very strong French player, expert French player, playing black here. So queen h5, it's really unusual. Black plays now g6. And that's not necessarily the best move. Black has not lost any games with this move. But I'm a little concerned because Glazirov didn't play it, and Anton didn't play it, and Brynel didn't play it. Pretty much all the grandmasters who played black here didn't play that move. Why did none of the grandmasters play it? Alright, but still, it has a good score, undefeated. And now bishop takes e7, queen takes e7. I mean, white has gotten away with something here. White has played the Aliakin Shitard attack, but he hasn't had to sacrifice a pawn in order to play it. And secondly, white's gone to trade, black's good bishop off, and black's played g6. So I would think that white is better on several different levels, except for one thing. Maybe white's center isn't that stable. Is black going to be able to counterattack that center with c5? Will white be able to, is knight b5 going to come in to save us? And where do we put the queen now? So there's two games where black played h5. I seriously do not understand the move h5. Does anyone here understand the move h5? That looks like a robotic move. Driving the white queen to a better square where it has more ability to secure the center. And why would black want to put more pawns on white squares, anyway? h5 looks ridiculous. So this move makes more sense, guarding the b5 square. That was played in one game. And then I think that black's move here, c5, is very logical. Obviously, white's weakest point is that center that might not be very stable. But the downside, yeah, I agree, Sun Prism. The downside is, of course, the not so subtle knight b5. You would play h5 before c5. You don't like white playing h5. Well, I mean, at least your pawns are on the right color, and white's pawns on the wrong color. We've traded darks for bishops, so if, let's just say, for example, a6, h5, g5. Now, these pawns are on the correct color. So, yeah, you can play f4 at some point. But, white's kind of like stuck behind that pawn on h5. The h5 pawn's not going anywhere. I mean, it's not like we're going to go bishop d3 and sack up piece on g6 or something. This is what happened in this one game. Black just said, screw you, and counterattacked his center. I don't know. I mean, first glance, I think that this is okay for black, But we'll see. So Sun Prism went with c5 right away, a little riskier, allowing knight b5. This is obviously going to be problematic. I don't know what your plan was exactly. We're losing internet. Something new and totally different. Welcome back, everybody. I feel better. My food coma sort of subsided. But had a very painful day today. A long and painful day today. What's the plan? I didn't know if black was going to castle now. Castle looks a little extreme. I'm not sure. Castling is necessary here. Oh, you got knight c7. Yeah, I honestly have to confess that I missed. But we could always go Nigel Short style, We sack a rook, no big deal. Knight c6, knight c7 check, king d8. Maybe even king f8. But we keep the knight blocked in. I mean, is that knight going to live? Or is it getting trapped? And I guess the Nigel Short question would be, if the knight on a8 gets trapped, maybe black gets some compensation here. Say takes. So this pawn is going, or is very loose. And we can probably trap the knight with b6, bishop b7. And there's stuff like queen b4 check. So Nefedov would probably have to be very careful here. Castle queen side. But trapping the knight doesn't seem like enough. It's not enough. Bishop b5, bishop b7, bishop c6, knight b6, a b6. And ultimately black is just down the exchange. There's not enough. So, we'll look at the game again from black's perspective. Alright? So you castled. This does look dangerous to me. I'm not sure we had anything better at that point. Though now again, there's knight c7. Nefedov doesn't go for the rook. Oh, because of knight e5. Yeah, that's your whole point. Duh. You have knight c5. Alright, I'm a little slow on the reuptake inhibitors. That's your whole freaking point, man. Yeah. Nefedov can't play knight c7. So he goes h5, which Mr. Slow was afraid of. Black plays g5, and now f4 looks really scary. That's what happened. And now so c takes d4. But it's yeah, I mean, f4 is scary, but is it that scary? Needless to say, I think white should castle at some point. in the very near future, I would think. I would consider castling now, for white. But I guess if you castle now, I mean, there's always like crazy stuff like f5. There's this check here. I don't know if that does anything. I would think like this would be the safe move for white to play. But I would think that white is better. I mean, black's king looks really sketch. Whew, wow, it's equal. Oh my god. That's unbelievable. Yeah, I would think the knight's going to f3. It's equal according to the computer after castles. So Nefedov chooses a sharper continuation, but doesn't that allow knight takes e5? Oh, I see. So ultimately he's going to force black to make a decision to maybe sack the rook. And that's what happened. Takes here. Queen takes g5. Oddly enough, as scary as black's kingside looks, maybe, just maybe, no, you have to do this. And so then he goes into c7. Now we're going to need to get the exchange at least. Bishop d7. Here. Knight a6, but that's not the only move. Black can play rook to c8, no? I mean, this move has to be seriously considered. Miles, welcome back. Wow. Damn, dude. So rook c8 was the move. I mean, I had no idea what the evaluation was. I assumed that white is better, and white is better, but... yeah, knight a6 lets him out. This h-pawn isn't really going anywhere, and white's development is slow. And Nefedov tries to make a break for it, and he's threatening the a6. Now, obviously, the million-dollar question is what happens if knight takes a6? Well, not too scary or anything. Jesus. I'm not sure it's going to matter that you're up a rook in this position with the way that black is coordinated here. This looks very, very bad for white. And so, ultimately, it may be that the line you chose has even more practical value because this rook sacrifice is so strong. Now the question is, yeah, we have to take that. And then Nefedov gets to play castle's queenside, but I don't know if he should. Probably not. This looks scary for white. White's going to have to be very, very careful. It looks like knight e2. Has to be considered. But I just see a lot of pawns disappearing on the third rank. So Nefedov's going to castle and then play like c3. I was wondering about this. This is a fantastic position, and you have a number of different moves. I mean, if d3, c3, d4, this is probably not quite enough. But even so, it's interesting. This h-pawn could end up winning. So you played that, and now rook d2. Well, one tactical misstep, and somebody's going to lose the game. I just don't know who it's going to be. D3 looks very good. C3, and if Nefedov, wants to just, if he could trade one set of pieces, he's probably good. The last thing we care about is losing the exchange. Just get me a knight on D4. So I think that he should objectively consider knight F3 here. I mean, I know he's down, he's down a pawn, but I mean, is this really so bad? After knight takes, F6, knight D4 or something? It looks like white might be okay. Might be just fine. It's equal. So I think at some point, like, the question will be, is white better off, like, giving back material? Miles, if you're a subscriber, you're welcome to submit a game. You have to be a subscriber, though. And it's a little on the late side. In general, I try to ask people that are subscribers to submit the games at an earlier time, so, we get them in the queue there. But if you were a subscriber, I guess there's not enough games today. So knight c4, I don't know, is knight c4 right? What about d4? Because, I mean, this looks pretty freaking scary, dude. The point being here, and I just, I have massive play. Takes, check. When it's not clear who's better, I think. Now, I just lost a game down the exchange in the endgame. This is bringing back rather bad memories. But this looks like a better version of my game. It's equal. Okay, so we'll finish this up now. Nefedov hangs on to the exchange here with rook f2 while attacking the bishop. Black plays d2. Is there nothing better? I think that Sun Prism, you should have gone d4. All right, so knight c4 here, d2, and now, unbelievable. Nefedov's so greedy he won't even sack the exchange here. Unbelievable. He will not give up his material no matter what. It's like, I'm up the exchange. I will not sacrifice back material. Check king d1. Miles plays chess, just subscribed. You've subscribed for 3 months. Yay! Alright, now you're a subscriber. Now you can submit a game. You are permitted. Thank you for subscribing. So, Nefedov, very greedy, refusing to give back material. Now he's forced to give back a pawn, but then black loses the advanced passer. King takes. Knight c4 check. I have the feeling that both players, obviously they didn't have time to find the best moves in the situation, but to be fair, look at the clocks. What's the conclusion from this clock situation? I think both of you guys playing a little too fast, and that's coming from the guy who lost the game because of time today. It's increment, but yeah, okay. Not so easy. Check king c1, bishop e4. Nefedov's used more time. Holy mother of pawns. That's the best pawn chain on the board. I just realized that, this almost becomes like one wall of pawns. If that pawn pushes down, the bishop can be like a pawn too. You thought you were winning? Well, I mean, I don't even have a clue. Who's better, let alone winning? I honestly wouldn't know who's better here. Unless you're checkmating him. You're practically checkmating him, but your bishop's hanging. So bishop e4 here, and now you have rook b8. And you found it, but guess what? Wait, is this? Oh. Yeah, optimism is... The good news is that I didn't lose today because of my optimism. Or being... I lost today because I forgot about, getting in time pressure. And then I blundered in my time pressure. But I think that you're too optimistic about your position. It's hard to evaluate, who's better here. This is close. Nefedov has one move, but it's a good move. Hanging on completely. Your extra pawn doesn't matter. It's this doubled A pawn. So at the end of the day, you've got to be careful. Like, if he exchanges a set of pieces, this is what happened to me today. I had like a pawn for the exchange. The minute that white traded off my last rook, it was game over. If he trades off your pieces, you're down the exchange and you lose. Again, Nefedov could consider sacrificing the exchange back. I'm going to need a new mouse. Check here. Holy moly, Batman. What the hell is this? Dude, this is just a draw. Now that looks like a draw. Takes, king takes, rook takes h5. If that's not a draw, I don't know what's a draw. I mean, white could lose it. These could become two connected passers. But all rooking games are basically draws. Wow, white is better. Unbelievable. But it's still a draw. So Nefedov even has knight takes c4. He would never give back material, just too greedy. Rook h3, and now bishop h7. And now that's a nice blockader. But, and Nefedov's attacking. He's not trying to consolidate, he's just attacking. Rook g3, f6. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, f6. That sucks. Chess sucks and then you die. That's my new go-to. Rook takes f2, knight takes d2, king takes d2, f6, I mean, check. Here. Here. This doesn't look good, bro. This is bringing back bad memories. Yeah, this is basically what happened to me. Kind of what happened to me today. Just down the exchange and I'm just lost. Okay. Now, we're going to take a little bit of a break from this game. And then we're going to look at it from Black's perspective, which I think will be fun. In the meanwhile, I've got another game from Miles. Miles of Miles. And here is the tournament broadcast of my game. lichess.org/broadcast/Alto Open. Okay. Whoa. There it is. Wow. Oh wow, this is one of these like adult tournaments or whatever. Cool. Alto. Is this new? Is this something new or an older game? Now how the hell am I going to get this game? Alright. Can I? David Vigorito. This must be old. Okay. Yeah. Alright, copy PGN. I think this might work. Please work. It worked. Alright. And is that from November? Wow. That was from November. Was that some North Carolina thing? The North Carolina Chess Center? Or Charlotte, I mean? Okay. Alright, anyway. We'll go to that next, but I got it in the study. So I'm doing Mule Skinner now. Then Sun Prism Nefedov Part 2. And then trough. So Lopez 666. When I saw this Mule Skinner, I thought it was Mule Skinner playing the Roy Lopez. Now, out of curiosity, like Roy is a name in Spanish, so there must be actual people like who are Spanish chess players named Roy Lopez. Since Lopez is like a really common name, that would be embarrassing though. Kind of funny to be Roy Lopez and be a chess player. Anyway, stupid jokes. But this is Mule Skinner with white, and it's not a Roy Lopez. Lopez plays c5. That feels wrong. He should definitely play e5. Well, he probably plays Lopez with white. Alright, so it's Mule Skinner against Lopez. c5, knight c3, and nowadays I like e6 best here, personally. But you can only play that if you play... it depends on what you play in the mainline Sicilian because of transpositions. So knight c6 is the main move. And now Mule Skinner plays his patented Grand Prix attack. Or Grand Prix attack. This is the Grand Prix attack. Technically, I don't know. In the books, this was always called the Grand Prix attack. Now they're calling it the McDonald attack. But that's just like lichess and Wikipedia or whatever. I think that originally this was the Grand Prix attack. But whatever. Anything involving f4 in the first 2 or 3 moves. Knight c6. When people like Mark Hebden were playing f4 in the 70s and 80s on the English chess circuit, I don't think anybody went around calling it the McDonald attack. That's just a totally made up thing. F4, g6 main line, knight f3, bishop g7, and now I've never been a big believer in the Grand Prix attack with white, but I gotta think that I like bishop b5 better than bishop c4. We can always bail and play like a closed Sicilian. And you can even play like a Lawrence Trent attack or whatever with like d3. Or instead of Lawrence Trent, obviously, sorry, but Bent Larson played stuff like this with white. But nevertheless, okay, bishop c4. I think that bishop c4 is not quite good enough for white. But now black's supposed to play e6. And black doesn't. So this is a bad move order by Lopez. I mean, he's allowing you, he's playing it like a Najdorf player, ending up in this position. Anand and others who like to play the Najdorf would play d6 on move 2 and end up in this position. But you don't voluntarily play d6. d6 is like slightly inaccurate. It's still okay for black, but it's not as good as e6. So this is a mistake. Black doesn't know that. Castles, and now e6. And so we're still in the main line. Gelfand, Anand. I mean, people that play this line with black to try to get the Najdorf if white plays a funky transpositional move order. Now I don't know if you're supposed to play d3 or queen e1, or if it matters. But apparently, yeah, there's even f5. f5, okay, f5 is even crazier. Yeah, like f5, g takes f is possible. And black, you see, there's some strong players, but everything is possible. E takes f, knight f6. But all of the lines are kind of scary for black, and there's a lot of traps, I'm sure. Anyways, white plays queen e1. Now, knight on g to e7, d3, castles, and then black is, black essentially has ideas of d5. But I would avoid this variation for black. Black is kind of like normally playing with the pawn on d7, not on d6, a tempo more. Here he doesn't have that option. So f5 is apparently main line. I probably played this here on lichess. Let's see. No. Well, again, as I said, I don't normally use this move order. So now black is definitely supposed to play g takes f5. I will say one thing, Muleskinner, I hope that, your opponent doesn't, know you play this exact position. Because those statistics look really bad. I mean, white's score is really bad after g takes f5. Which would make me, a little paranoid. Yeah, queen e1 is the line with the best results. But when we go down this line here, it looks like f5 has been kind of solved. McDonald, not McDonald. So let's turn on the engine for a sec. The computer doesn't like f5. It's obviously trappy and scary and playable. The computer is a computer, it's not a person, and so it makes choices that may not be good for people. You can play queen h4. It's probably important not to waste time. For example, like king h1 looks a little slow. But anyway, I'm concerned about white's score after f5. This looks f5 g takes f in particular. Look at the score here. Very bad. Horrible. Alright, I will say one thing. Samuel, Ray, Singh, thank you for donating a bit there. It's kind of like the Smith Gambit. One of the reasons why black's score is so good here isn't that black's position is that much better. But I'll tell you guys the secret. Black's position is probably a little bit better. But the thing is that, generally speaking, great players don't play the Grand Prix attack because it's been played out, It's kind of a coffee house system. It's been sort of analyzed to death. And I think the statistics here are favoring black because most of the players with black are better players than the players with white. And you'll see the same thing if you go through the so-called Smith Gambit. Black has a really good score, even though it should be closer to equal, because mostly it's better players playing black. You're only going to find games by Nakamura's stepdad playing white here. Or maybe some old games from the 70s and 80s. Muleskinner should probably switch it up a little bit and play some sort of different line. Because it looks to me like his opponent is way too well prepared. Like, he knows you're going to play this exact position, and even knows to play g takes f5. That, for me, is a major red flag. So now bishop g5, though. This is interesting because this move isn't as played as much as the others. And Muleskinner knows his stuff. So it may be that this is better. This may be white's best move. Played by a guy who used to live here. Brushkern. f6 obviously blunts black's bishop on the diagonal and weakens black on this diagonal. So that's kind of a good move to see. And now bishop d2. And obviously if you put the bishop on e3, you have to watch for forks with d5, d4. Godowski, or Godowski, I don't know how you pronounce that, is rating with a party of 4. Welcome. So Brushkern lost to this guy in 2002 here. but Jurgen is like a average FIDE master. Grandmaster Shaitai from Albania lost with black. So it's not so simple, but bishop d2 looks reasonable. We've sacrificed a pawn. d5. Should we take on d5 and leave black with broken kingside pawns? Yeah, this is a pretty ugly structure for black. So I think whatever happens, it's hard to imagine that black will be better. We have compensation for our sacrificed pawn. So maybe black rushed there with d5. This move is not necessary. It doesn't seem necessary. What if black were to be more patient somehow? I mean, the obvious suggestion is like king h8. The problem there is then pawn takes pawn. But maybe then we'd have like an in-between move. I mean, obviously this is a very complex position. But if black is careful and say plays king h8. Black played knight a5 in the other game. But I mean, okay, if you don't play knight a5, king h8, I can play a3, for example. But I'm not sure that this bishop is a big deal. The point being that anytime, anytime you take, I'll play this. I'm not going to let you like take on. Actually, you can even let him take on e6. Because this guy can be pinned with rook e8. So even that might be good. Black played d5 maybe a little too early. Takes, bishop b3, king h8 now. But the structure is damaged. If one of those pawns falls, what's up, Paul? Nice first move you've got there. The structure is damaged, and if one of those pawns falls, white's just going to be better. So knight e2, transferring to f4, maybe g3. White has shifted, from playing like an attacking scheme to a sort of Nimzovician positional game with a better structure. This is not so pleasant for black. I mean, I would consider knight e5. You'd want white to fix your structure. That obviously would be weakening, maybe. I mean, things are not so simple even here. Maybe this is impossible to hold. The four pawns attack. Feeling like a moron after another dismal loss this morning. I know. I feel like a moron too, but mine wasn't a dismal loss. I actually had a very promising position and like blundered because of time pressure. I don't know which is worse. Bishop e6, knight f4. Looks like we've got a very good position. And now he cashes in with knight e6. I'm not sure if we have anything better, though. What are we going to do? Like c3, it's too slow. We don't have a lot of time here. Maybe queen h4? I don't see it. I don't see what our plan is. We're a little bit claustrophobic. I mean, black's stuck with this one really bad bishop. Bishop takes e6. That's his better bishop in a sense. Takes. This looks good. And now you take on d5. So now you're better. The the pawn bishop on g7. Really bad. He takes your bishop, you take back, but you're just looking good. You've got a lot of squares for your queen. I thought that maybe black would try knight to b4 here, objectively. Because this would afford him counterplay on the c file. So let's say knight b4. What do we do? Do we go back? Maybe you just go back calmly, or maybe this is better. White is still clearly better. So I don't know what to recommend for him. He plays b6. Okay. Down knight h4. But I think here we need to be accurate. Knight h4 is a very obvious move, but I'm afraid that, you know, trading knights might give black a little bit of chance to survive in a heavy piece endgame. But still, you're clearly better. I mean, is there going to be any counterplay here, though? Because I was going to suggest bishop c3. Mule Skinner, maybe you're rushing here with knight h4. And maybe you need to consider the possibility that this can be about good knight versus bad bishop. Not just winning the weak pawn on f5. They're not going anywhere, necessarily. Right? I mean, still, this is possible, but I take with the bishop. That looks awful for black. Or just, yeah. I don't want to take here and get pinned, you know. I end up losing a piece. You could be very patient, though, and play something like queen b3. I mean, this endgame looks... You could take your time. Picking up f5. I don't think Mule Skinner's here, actually. I'm talking like he's here, you know, like I'm talking to him. He's not here, but this looks like maybe you're rushing. And so after knight d4, then he takes f5, I'm concerned about this falling. If that's not a problem, then we're fine. But if we lose c2, we lose our structure. Maybe it's not possible, though, because of tactics. It's possible the knight just falls. It's like indefensible. Rook c1. Yeah, it looks like black loses a piece here. After knight takes c2, the knight is trapped. So that's not a danger, but still, I think there's a question whether we're... What's up, these tricks? I think it's a question whether we're doing the right thing by taking this pawn and allowing a possible exchange of knights. Still, we're objectively winning. We have a pawn up, better structure, bad bishop on g7. It should be good enough. Now this is like Pandora's box. The result of the game is a draw. This is kind of what I was talking about. Like, this thing keeps lurking here. We want to keep the game simple. I'm curious what the engine says. Rook A E1. Even C3 is possible. That's a really hard move to find. Allowing C2 to just drop based on activity. But I think this is a move that anybody could find. For example, C3. But this is a move that I think Mule Skinner is in time pressure. He's making a simple move. Now black is smart. He doesn't trade. He leaves the knight on d4. So after this is not so simple anymore because we have this issue with our c2. You know, I don't want our pawn structure to get wrecked. And now we're responsible to defend that pawn, you know. So he played c4. White played c4 now, which is safe. But I'm not at all convinced this is the right thing to do. I mean, this is sort of passive, but I mean, rook c1 needs to be considered. I admit it's not great. You know, honestly, like, maybe black should just take here. I don't understand at all why he doesn't. I think he should take. So let's check with the engine. He should take, but he's still losing objectively. He doesn't take. I mean, now black has a bad pawn here, a bad bishop. White has a queenside majority now, in addition to the fact that he's up a pawn and has a better structure. And now the only thing that black has is the e-file, but we now countered that. So at this point, black has what looks like a lost position. No counterplay, bad bishop, worse structure, no counterplay at all against the d3 pawn, queenside majority. We should win. So this is like desperate attempt to create some sort of counterplay. And now rook takes e8. That feels like I'm in time pressure and I'm making like a suboptimal move. I think that the sensible thing to do here would be b3, because my like counterplay detector is going off at a4. Maybe it's not a big deal, but I think we want to eliminate any kind of possible counterplay. If you take away queen a4, I don't think that black can do anything. So giving him the file to trade pieces is fine, but he has this queen a4, and there's some back rank stuff, maybe bishop h6. You know, so it feels like white maybe rushed a little bit there, though objectively you should be winning. He does find the bishop h6. And that is definitely like not what I wanted to see. But still bishop f2 looks good. You played bishop h4. I get it though. I get it. The problem is bishop f2, bishop e3. Still not so simple anymore. This is not that simple. You have to be careful. So bishop h4, bishop e3 check, king f1. That looks very strong. It looks very strong. It's typical Mule Skinner. He's hesitating in time pressure, like me. But trading bishops probably doesn't favor our winning chances. It probably favors black's drawing chances. Queen endgames are a lot like rook endgames. A lot of draw chances. Bishop f2, king f2, king g7. This is not easy to win. You know, maybe it's winning, but our king's sort of open, and it's not so easy, and we've got to get that queen side advanced. We don't even have our passed pawn moving or anything. So it ended up being a draw. You slowly improved your position, but at some point allowed him to come in with a perpetual. Yeah. But I think a lot of practical stuff, you know, in time pressure, you need to buckle down and not allow, and this is easy for me to say because I lost my game today in time pressure, but try to avoid time pressure, try to keep it like really locked in. I mean, it even feels like rook takes e8 is a mistake. You know, this is like, you're just cracking just a little bit. No, think of the position as like a living organism. And every little improvement of the position makes your chance better. I think b3, it's a simple and safe move. b3. By allowing your bishop back to e1, you allow bishop h6. It's like a domino effect. Black has enough counterplay to gain chances to draw. All right. Let's take a look at Nefedov Sun Prism. Second time. A little faster this time. For Sun Prism, can we spot anything else? It's our second time going through this game, but it's from Black's perspective. A unique stream today, the first time we've ever gone over the same game from each side. So, I really like Sun Prism. I'm not a French defense aficionado. You know, the McCutcheon is very risky, and it may or may not be good. But I think that this line is good. There is a drawback though, like right, they can kind of play for a draw with knight takes e4, bishop e7, and then what, knight takes f6. I know that's kind of cringy. And if your concern is white playing for a draw here, it's a legitimate concern, you know. But nevertheless, if they don't do that, I think I like that line better. You know, it may seem like giving up the center is kind of like playing the Rubinstein variation, but the truth is that it's not quite. Because white has played bishop g5, and in our main line here, white's giving up that bishop. And I think these positions are very dynamic for black. So if you want to try something different, I strongly would recommend this system. You know, if you want to play the French but give yourself chances to win, you notice here the score for black is probably a little better than in the classical sort of line like you played here. I think that has more life to it. This is I don't know, less dynamic. E5, and then there's an offbeat move I think that some people have played, 94. Maybe it's not correct. Knight d7 and now h4. And as I was saying before, I don't know what like the book, what French defense books recommend here. I mean, is it a6, c5? We looked at this, c5, bishop e7, you're supposed to take with the king. Like, this is the, Nigel, I showed you the experimental idea against Adam Hunt there with queen takes, but I mean, this is a kind of standard line. I know. Taking with the king. That's definitely, and then this, it looks bad statistically. So, you know, your move is interesting though. H16 is interesting. And then Nefedov, I would expect him to play bishop takes e7. Most people play bishop takes e7. Oh, I mean, I guess this is standard. So we got this really weird move, queen h5. That I certainly, you know, I don't think I've ever seen this. So some special Nefedov variation. I don't like playing g6 on general principles. G6, I mean, it just doesn't seem necessary. One could even make the argument that the queen is out of play on h5. So I'm not sure we actually want to chase the queen away. I mean, okay, if there was some knight threatening e6 or there was some concrete threat here on f7, but... So it looks like this is a key position. Maybe the problem with queen h5 is that ultimately it's misplaced, you know? So you're kind of helping him by playing g6. I mentioned that none of the grandmasters here, Anton, although he was young in 2012, French defense expert, the Glacier, I call him the Glacier, Glazirov, Stellan Brynell has several games, you know, so you got like 4 or 5 GMs, Glazirov again. What do they play? They're not playing g6 here. So I think that's important. So this move may not be great. The fact that black didn't lose any of these games is statistically irrelevant because it's just 3 games. So white is probably a little better here. Bishop takes e7, queen e7, and now queen g4. Defending the center, but as I said, we look at this position, and it reminded me of the McCutcheon, but it's obviously not involving double pawns. But I like white's position in that he traded your darks for bishop off. Your pawns are on white squares. Your only chance seems like counterplay against his center. But you ended up like castling kingside in 2 moves. Is there any way we could castle queenside? So we looked at a6, right? h5. And Mr. Slow likes h5, which I denied on principle because I didn't like queen f4. But let's take a look a little bit like deeper. So I don't like the h5 because it gives up the g5 square. It forces his queen to a useful square where it's on the dark squares, protecting e5 and d4. But the idea would be to play a6 and then maybe like try to play c5, knight c6. Let's see, knight f3, c5, and now I play d takes c5 and castles queenside. I have to say, like, I don't like this any better than what happened in the game. I don't like h5. So let's take a look at the other possibility here of a6 immediately. We did, right? But let's look from black. You know, Mr. Slow was like, he didn't like h5, but as I said, I'm not that scared of h5 and f4. You know, he's putting his pawn on the wrong color. It's not passed or anything. And so we will play rook g8 now. We're going to play g5. I mean, you do have to consider all your options. But rook g8 looks dubious. So g5 blocks everything, it seems. Well, I mean, everything, but he does have f4. So he has the break f4. And white played it in a game here that they lost. But just because white can play f4 doesn't mean white should play f4 right away, you know. He could always wait. Maybe white should take care about, you know, development first. So it is possible to castle queenside or play knight f3. This computer, which I need a new computer, this computer says you're better by 0.1. And after f4, it changes its mind. Well, it's so close that it changes its mind based on whose turn it is. After c5, it's going to say black is better. Yeah. Because it gets like one move deeper, it keeps changing its mind. Coffee and Cigarettes, that's a good movie. Iggy Pop and Tom Waits. That's a great one. So yeah, I think this is the way to go, dude. Alright, anyway. I think that's the best way to go. But you don't have to play g6, for sure. I think the way you played it works, though. So c5 right away, and then this. And now this is complicating matters here. This is wild. It was a neat idea you had with knight takes c5, knight c7, knight takes c5, h5, g5. It's a little scarier when your king is on g8. But you know you have this f5 thing. So if he tries f4, f5, you know, I mean, this would just be crazy. You could just block the whole king side. Something like that, you know. When white, like, if white doesn't have some sort of sacrifice on g4, he's got, like, no play on the king side at all. So he has to be really careful about that f5 thing. Let's see. Damn, it was the #1 move. I mean, that's not an easy move to play on your part, you know. I mean, this is the kind of move you got to consider, but it's a fast game, and I don't know, you know. Should you play f5? Well, there's also this. You know, who knows what the hell is happening here? You're taking with a knight, it's a tempo. But where does he go? Ultimately, White's development doesn't look too good. You know, I mean, where is White's development? He needs to get castled. So I think you were fine there too. You took here, and the problem with this move, not really threatening anything. I mean, maybe you're threatening f5 again. So he takes, and now, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you have another alternative here. I mean, what about, you know, this is insane to like take with the H pawn, right? Like that has to be kind of insane. It's playable, but it doesn't seem like a good idea. Oh, so you were talking about this. No, you were talking about this, and we didn't get to this. Okay. So this is actually really interesting. You said there's something about you never considered f5. That's a big mistake because it's a forcing move. You know, the first rule of combinations is always like consider the forcing moves first. If I ever have a winning position, I'm probably going to see the winning move. But the problem is, like, I never have a winning move in any of my games. You know, it's like, if I only had a winning move, I would see it. Knight takes e5 right away you had. You could have played it this way. No, this was the game. Okay. This was the game. Okay, so you could have played it the other way with queen takes first. No. Okay, this is right. And Nefedov must have been thinking like, oh, I'm winning material, it's all set. And then here. And like my first suggestion was this rook c8. When you sack the exchange, you have a huge glob of pawns in the center that has to be worth a lot. So if you're down the exchange, you know, it's not such a big deal. And you've got his h-pawn blockaded with your king. So those types of positions could be like both sides playing for a win, even though you're down the exchange for like a pawn or something. But you know what's funny? That maybe your move is actually... It's possible that your move is actually better. So that's another another move that, like, you know, you said you didn't consider rook c8. Your move might be better, but you have to consider you're missing major candidate moves like f5 and rook c8. You're not considering all the candidate moves. And you have like 10 minutes here. You have to at least consider all the serious candidate moves for a few seconds. Even in a rapid game, even in a blitz game. Rook c8 should be considered. Plus you're attacking c2. I mean, this is obvious. So knight a6. Naturally, he takes, you take, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, okay, Nefedov is going to be like up a rook. But the problem is, you know, I don't know how far you analyze this, but my God, man, after knight takes a6, you might like be winning. I have no idea. I mean, you have three connected pass pawns in the middle that can unite with two more to create like the Death Star. Plus you're threatening bishop b5, plus d3, rook takes b2, rook takes g2. I don't even know where to start, you know? Yeah, you assumed he would take on a6, and I think that's a fair assumption. But this might have been a brilliant move. Nefedov spent a minute and a half on it. So he clearly understood that there was a lot of danger. And I think he's making the right decision here. Knight takes e6 is an alternative. But the even more extreme alternative, which the greedy Nefedov never considered enough, was castles queenside, giving you the whole knight without messing up your pawn structure. Now, he would get d4. So actually, I'm just kidding. I like to tease Nefedov. So rook c8 castles queenside. He actually has castles queenside, taking the d4 pawn. Rook takes d4. But I mean, this is becoming more like, what feels like a very Sicilian like exchange sacrifice, you know. This is where the Grandmaster says in the book that black has practical compensation for the exchange, chances for both sides or something, you know. A cop-out evaluation. Whereas the computer probably thinks that white is slightly better. But if you're not a computer, it's not so easy, and white can even lose. But I think that would have been a lot safer than what Nefedov did. So after this, he's threatening knight e7 check, knight f6 check. Rook takes. Did you ever consider the possibility of like a perpetual? Like rook takes c2, knight check, king, I don't know, g7, knight takes d7. You know, you could have one of these things, like check here, king d1, threatening one of those like weird windmill perpetuals. It looks like it might not quite work, obviously. But it would certainly be fun to... well, actually, you're threatening knight f2, so if you do this, for example... Okay, he has a check. Maybe I should go to the other square. I'm not sure. Like on check, king h8. Then this knight can come back. But let's just say knight takes d7, knight check. This is mate, by the way. King d1, rook takes b2, threatening perpetual check. You assumed you'd have a pressuring attack. h6 check, king h8. So what's going on here? If you win a rook, you're up like 3 pawns. He has knight h3. Damn. Wow, knight f3 is even winning. Because it's not perpetual. He goes to f1, g1. So this doesn't work. Wow. Well, that's good that we didn't go for that. That doesn't come close to working. Was worth checking, though. Okay, takes castle. So he made a huge mistake. He should have played knight f3. That's a tough move to find. That's similar to the game. Similar to the game. And I wasn't sure if your bishop f5 was best or not. Because obviously, you know, we have to consider d3. This is a tough one. You know, I wouldn't even know which move to play. How much time do you spend on this move? Okay, so you spent a minute on this. Because both moves are very, very important. Yeah, you shouldn't assume you have a crushing attack. I mean, it's close, but I mean, I'm not sure until I'm sure, you know, and it doesn't look... Now, one-piece exchange, and, you know, you can see what happened. This is my biggest problem, being too optimistic as well. Today I managed to avoid it, but it's still... I forgot about time pressure. That was my way of being too optimistic today. I forgot... Oh yeah, getting in time pressure is bad. Then I, like, fuck up. It's been a while since I really fucked up a game with time pressure. So c3... And then here, d4 looked really tempting. Like, you need to add more pressure. So what's happening after d4? Does he escape with, like, knight f3? What about this type of thing? There's a problem? I think I was looking at this kind of position from the other side. And check, king b2. So takes, check, king here, and now you need a move. His rook is basically tied down permanently to that d-pawn. So I thought you'd pull your rook back and try something lateral. Maybe rook c6 or something. You can't possibly be losing here, can you? I mean, you got over here. It's a draw. It's a draw. So c3, this is interesting too. Rook f2. I was really surprised by that. I think this is a risky decision of Nefedov. You know, he should have played knight f3 objectively. He's a computer, but, you know, I would have played knight f3. And now you played d2 check. Do you have to do that? No, maybe you make a mistake here. g4, oh my god. That's impossible to find that move. This is so weird and counterintuitive. Not impossible, but I mean, if you're playing fast, you shut his knight out. Ooh. It's illogical because you're making your bishop bad again. It's really an octopus. Damn. Yeah, it's a weird move. You look to keep your pawns fluid. It just kills his knight. Not easy to find it. It's positionally counterintuitive. So here, but I thought now bishop e4. I mean, do you have stuff like this? So the point would be he plays knight f3. That's too late. Now it's too late. You're not winning ever. You're gonna draw a max after that. So d2 check was a good try, and I thought he would take, but he didn't. This seems insanely dangerous for white, by the way, to play king d1. I mean, is it just me? You have less time. Black has this initiative. Nefedov, it's unbelievable, dude. I mean, I wouldn't even hesitate. I would definitely play rook takes d2. He plays king d1. Dude, he didn't even use any time on that move practically, just his increment. You're like flirting with losing with that move. Whereas like with rook takes d2, you're never going to lose. Knight takes b2 check. King takes king to d2. I mean, and now, you know, you're active. You have 3 active pieces. There's no way you should lose this position, and no way that Nefedov should win. You know, he's only increasing his losing chances by playing that move. You know, I'd be very happy now. Check, king c1. Now, you're still over-optimistic thinking you're winning, right? It's a really bad attitude. So bishop e4. That looks strong. And you've got f5. And suddenly he's starting knight takes g5. But that doesn't matter because you got the mating threats. So here. That's like only move. And now you realize, oh shit, I'm not winning necessarily. But let's stop here for a second, because I think I didn't really think about this position enough when I was looking at Nefedov's side. See, now I can see the position more from your perspective, and I feel like black is better here. Can't you play f5? So let's take a look at f5. There's a problem. So if you play f5, he takes. But I'm just wondering, between this knight on c4, your rook on b8, and a powerful passed pawn, you have stuff like, you know, mating nets with like e3, knight a3, and rook b1, you know. He's winning. Fuck. Are you serious? He's winning? So anything you do, e3, he just takes your pawn with check. King h7. And I'm sitting here like an idiot, thinking that I'm winning with knight a3. Oh my god. So if he takes on d5, it's still not even winning. Oh my god, he just walks away. Even that's a draw. Sacks his rook on h1. So this is totally irrational. Shit. Unbelievable. I mean, he played like God was in the house from about this point forward. I'm automatically playing rook takes d2. He finds king d1. This is forced. Check. Only move. And then you went wrong, but it's like hard to blame you for this. I would have done the same thing. Holy shit. King h7? What? What am I looking at? Bishop h7. Okay, I'm blind. Bishop h7. That was better, so your bishop doesn't get attacked by knight f3. Rook b8, knight d2. And your bishop's not attacked. So you could play other cool stuff like knight e5. But you're still not winning. This reminds me of like one of my games. I mean, I never have a winning position no matter how scary it looks for the opponent. They're always like miraculously okay. Yeah, that's hard, man. So at some point you had to try to bail out, and it's like when? When do you bail out? When do you have a lost position? Phew, rook h3, bro. Rook h3 is like double exclam. Yeah, he just keeps attacking me. Yeah, he played like God. I mean, really from move, I don't know. From denying that rook takes d2. What was the center pawn loss on this game at the end of the day? Like, Nefedov definitely made mistakes before. But the end of the game was like unbelievable. So one blunder, one mistake. Yeah, but once, I mean, if you go... So it was like a draw up until king c1, move 27. But at that point, after that, Nefedov played like 0 center pawn loss from move 27 onward. He made no inaccuracies the whole game. He made 2 mistakes and a blunder. Yeah, he was lost on that freakish g4 position. That was the only position where he was lost. And he made 2 mistakes earlier on, but they were kind of small mistakes. Basically big inaccuracies. Really very well played game by Nefedov overall, except for that one blunder. But again, even the blunder was kind of freakish, because g4 is a very hard move to find, Alright guys, good double analysis. Now we're going to look at Miles' game from the Alto tournament in North Carolina last year. Last year or 2 years ago? When was this played? I don't want to request an analysis. I just want to go back. 2024. Interesting. Okay. Alrighty. So, yeah, we're going to flip the board now. We're going to be white. Or not. We're going to be black. So, it's funny, this, like, kid, Caden Trough, he's, like, must be, like, 30 now. But it's just weird, because when I was still playing chess in the US, I remember he was like a little kid or something. It's very weird, The people who were little children are like middle-aged adults now. It feels like just yesterday that he was just like this amateur little kid. Anyway, g3, knight f6, bishop g2, And e5. I mean, a lot of people aren't well prepared. A lot of people. Oh, he actually is your coach. Oh, he's actually your coach. Oh, that's a coincidence. Um, you like to play b6. Um, anyways, I think it should depend a little bit on maybe how you play against English. Most people aren't well prepared for g3. Oh, as I suspected, he transposes to the English. But I mean, obviously, white has a lot of choices. What was that? We had a notification. I am worst has followed. And Python Bot Farm had followed earlier, along with Wisehood 101. Thank you guys. So last game for today, I'm going to go get some rest and kill myself after this. So, no, I mean, English is the main move in this position. White can also play other stuff, but I mean, this is objectively White's best move. And now I like c6. I was just going over this with one of my students. I played c6 quite a bit. Delchev recommends this in his repertoire book against the English. I mean, obviously knight c6 is okay, but you know, and you can play other stuff. I mean, the Bodler attack, like in reverse or whatever. I've never been a fan of that, but that's a thing too. You know, so, but I don't think this is the best, because after knight c3, this is a little harder for black to play. You know, c6 technically, I think, playing essentially a reversed c3 Sicilian. Yeah, it's a mean thing to do to play g3 against you. I do that to people all the time. Knight c6 is going into this English that's a little better for white. You know, if you play the standard line, white is better here after knight d5. It may not be that bad. I've played like a5, but it's a little better for white, you know. So you played d6. Now, I don't know how to classify this after d6. I think, yeah, you're going to try to transpose to a closed Sicilian, and your best bet is probably g6, bishop g7. I just don't know if... Yeah, he should have time. I mean, he should play e3. I would assume, like, e3 is the most common move here. Unless you have some kind of weird gambit, you can't do that. I think that black should play g6 objectively. This is all you can do. You know, I mean, this is seriously your best chance. After knight on g to e2, we're going to transpose. Black can play the closed English in every variation. I mean, I studied with Dvoretsky, and we talked about the closed English, and Mark and I looked at knight h6, knight f6, knight e7. I mean, all of these moves are actually like reasonable. They're just a little bit different from each other. And knight f6 is kind of, you know, feels like in a way it's the worst, because you're blocking your f pawn. But I'm not sure it's so simple. You know, it should be your best shot here. Now this is out. Sorry, he played knight f3. You know, so now you've got to watch out, because white has the ability to play d4. Yeah, I mean, maybe his move is good in a sense. Maybe e3 is allowing you to play g6, whereas knight f3 might be more accurate, come to think of it. Maybe he's smart to play this knight f3 because he prevents you from playing g6, because now he has d4. I think he's right, actually. You know, knight f3 is accurate, okay? It's not devastating, but it may be the most accurate move. Essentially like discouraging or preventing g6, which is your most legitimate setup. And now you can see that most people play g6, but it's not that simple. Maybe you can go into a sort of Larson reversed thing, like bishop e7. It's not great, But, you know, this way, even if he plays d4, you don't have to give up your center. You can just, like, castle. So, castle, castle. How bad is it? I mean, it's obviously a little better for white, but I'm not sure it's so easy for white, you know. But, you know, this is totally outside of my realm of like, chess opening knowledge now. It's funny that there's a Portish game. There's just a handful of games. And so white can sacrifice the pawn on c4. I saw Navarra do something similar in one game. Yeah, so... And what he did isn't bad, you know. But it's funny that, you know, most players play d4 here. And if you take on c4, I guess you're going to get caught out by some problems with queen a4. Nagel lost. This is 2001. I mean, geez. Those must be like USCF ratings or something. There's no way that Nagel was like 2396 in 2001, but he became a pretty good player here when he came later in 2004 or 2005. I would assume those are USCF ratings because Gulko was already declining, you know, by that point and didn't play much. But he's still alive. d5. What happens on d5? See, that's kind of weird. Look, that's weird. Look at this. Gulko has d5 and d takes e5. They're both good, and in fact, even queen a4 is good. Yeah, that's Nagel never would have done that later. I mean, that's insane. That's really insane to play bishop takes c4. So on d4, I mean, I guess the problem is you don't really have a good option. You just don't have a good option. You're in big trouble. So Troff took it easy on you with d3. I mean, maybe he didn't see it. Queen d7. You know, I had a friend when I was growing up, well, a mentor of sorts, who used to play this type of setup against the Sicilian, but he didn't put his knight on f6. He would just do like d3, bishop e6, bishop e3, queen d7. So this is like you're playing one of those closed Sicilians, but you played knight f6. You know, obviously white has this at some point. And I'm not sure, you know, when objectively you should pull the trigger on that. But Kaden's move is fine. Obviously, if you tried anything fancy with d5, he has knight g5, you know. So you do h6 to stop knight g5. So this almost looks like, you know, kind of a coffee house system that's not so bad. And at this point, one could make the case that you're sort of threatening to play d5. Even if you do, it's not a big deal. At worst case scenario, white's playing a dragon, classical dragon of sorts. So he obviously doesn't have to play this. But having played h3, you know, he can't castle and allow bishop takes h3. So what else can he do? I mean, like bishop d2, basically. He could play bishop d2. Then you're just, you know, doing this kind of thing. I don't think that black should usually castle long in the closed Sicilian. It's a bad idea. In most cases, of course, because the diagonal's open, it's like a Benoni or something, you know. Don't castle long in the closed Sicilian in most scenarios. There are some. There's a few scenarios where you have a quick attack, maybe. But in most cases, no. You know, e4 though. That's a very major development in the game. And I know that there are setups where black does this kind of crap with like bishop e7, bishop d8. But at this point, you know, that would probably be my guess. I guess you should play bishop e7. But, you know, obviously, white can just plonk a knight on d5, bishop d8. You don't really want to give up your bishop. You don't want to really give up your good bishop, but at the same time, you can't take with a knight. So you have to play something awkward like bishop d8. Maybe it's not so bad. So if we look here at the engine, white only has a very small edge. But it's something. You know, white is like a small plus. But I think that's the sound way to play here with black. You know, instead, you could go Rudolph Spielman and play like rook g8, like we saw earlier. But g5 is yeah, it feels very, again, Rob-like. It's possible that it's not that bad, but it looks loose, you know, obviously. It looks loose. He doesn't have d4, because you do have this now, so that's good. So it doesn't look like he has anything devastating. Obviously he has knight d5, that's a very natural move. You're going to play bishop defending the knight. I don't know, you know, which way we're going to go, but I guess bishop g7 makes more sense now. It looks like the closest something where you play g5 instead of g6. White should be better, but I don't know it's that bad. And then he goes queen b3. And this is a little bit of a weird move by white. But again, this is kind of a strange position. He can't castle. Or maybe he can. I mean, I don't know if he wants to, though. Probably doesn't want to. So if I were white, I would not play queen b3. You know, I would play something else. You know, something flexible. Bishop d2 looks okay. I kind of want to see what you're going to do. Because if you're going to castle queenside, then I want to have my b pawn. You know, queen b3 blocks his b pawn. It makes a case for you to castle queenside. In a sense. I'm not sure you should castle queenside, but he's kind of like... He's kind of encouraging you to do so with queen b3. So I don't know. But, anyways, I just feel like queen b3 is a little bit awkward. It may not be bad. This wouldn't be my first choice. But, you know, your other alternative is rather obviously to play rook b8. And I think I would take my chances with that. It doesn't, you know, appear like he has any way to, like, kill you quickly here. Although your position is kind of awkward. It's not out of the question that you could pull your queen back to d8. And maybe even play, like, knight d7 or something. So, castle queenside... I think this is dangerous. You know, so if I were him, again, I would... Yeah, he may underestimate you because you're low rated, even if he is your coach. I think that, again, development is strongly underrated, you know. He moves the same piece twice, moving the queen. This is also logical, though. Alright, I would have preferred bishop d2. You played g4. And obviously you could have played that, you know, in either case. Now the question is, if he takes, you're taking with the knight, and you're unraveling this f5. And he's gonna do b4 type of stuff with b5. And I would assume white is still better. But apparently it's not that clear. White is only slightly better. But knight takes f6 apparently is not so good. Takes, and now h takes g4, bishop takes g4. He wanted to get his bishop to e3 to attack a7. And it looks reasonable. King b8. Yeah, at this point now, your position is like worlds better than it was. I mean, suddenly, like, you're coordinated and you're basically developed. Whereas before, you were bottled up. I mean, trading his monster knight on d5 seems like a major loss. You know, he wants you to take on d5 so he can take with the c-pawn and then pile up on the c-file. That was really bad. And this move is kind of weird, you know. I think at this point, he didn't know what to do. He didn't want to castle. And then now he's making like a little bit artificial looking move, queen c3. I'm not even sure what this does. He's like controlling like the d4 square. So you made the move bishop e7, surprising move. But you know, in my view, you're controlling d4. If you take and knight d4, he can take and then play ops color bishops. But I still think that you're probably okay there. That would be sharp and not necessary. You probably shouldn't trade your light square bishop. It's just an idea. But I think that you're okay. I mean, if he wanted to play b4, he could play b4 with his queen on a3. But I think he just like didn't want to commit to anything. He didn't know what to do. So just waiting with queen c3. And now the question is, if you go here, he can play knight h4 and stop you from playing f5. Maybe, I don't know. But you went here, which is interesting because it's counterintuitive. You're taking pressure off of d4, but you're also keeping an eye on the h4 in case he tries to go knight h4. And meanwhile, you're preparing f5, which is going to be... This is actually very double-edged. If you play f5, you're going to open up his bishop on the long diagonal. So... yeah, he decided to castle queenside. I wonder if maybe he should just not castle at all, you know? Would it be crazy to play something like rook b1? I'm not sure if it does anything. But he could play like b4, b5 and try to do, you know, like a rook lift and attack here. I'm wondering if you can do anything to his king, you know, if he just sits there. He doesn't want to castle, but if he leaves his king in the center and develops his rook with rook b1. Bishop f3, bishop f3. Holy shit, you have this trap. Oh my god. I didn't see it. That's why he did... I get it now. Okay. So all the time... Well, actually not. You know, he sidesteps this. You had that trap with bishop... I didn't see it. Okay. So your idea was to do bishop b4. I'm never looking for stupid tactics. So you have this cheapo, like bishop b4. Okay. So then I guess he should play a3. Just get rid of that. Yeah, maybe instead of committing to castling queenside, he should just play a3. This is very committal. But I guess he figures he can put his king here. I don't like the pin, obviously. f5. Yeah, what does the engine say? a3. I think this is a serious mistake, you know. He shouldn't castle into that pin. He doesn't have to panic, and he could have just played like a3. And it's still like okay for white. Yeah, now after f5, there's some problems. You got threats like f4, piling on the f file here. The pin is very uncomfortable. So he played that, and now his bishop is like almost trapped. It looks like you might even have a way to win material by sacking a pawn. So this is what happened. And so he can't take because of the tactics. Gosh, wow. Yeah, so he's in a very dangerous place now. If he could maintain the structure, he'd probably be alright. So this is the end of the game. Well, now you have to consider whether to take or not, and you did. Do you have another option? Because his bishop isn't necessarily going anywhere. The problem is your H pawn. Like you can't just put your rook anywhere. So something like rook H7. This is rather awkward, but it might be good. Yeah, I don't want to take on F3, Sun Prism. Obviously you can, but this bishop is, and this is why I didn't want to take it earlier, and this is why I didn't win my game today, because I gave my fucking G4 bishop for the guy's knight on F3. And bishops are worth more than knights. I knew I shouldn't have done it today, and it's the same thing here. This is probably a stronger bishop than that knight. And if we take, then he forever is like safe on the white squares. It's better not to take it. So I like rook H7 better. Yeah, rook H7 looks good. You can play H5, You've got a passed pawn. The one thing, you can't drop your pawn, That's rule number 1. Unless you have some way to win material. And number 2 is you got to move a rook. So by process of elimination, we play rook H7. His bishop still can be captured whenever. It's not going anywhere. It's trapped, basically. The computer wants to play, I think, this. But now you're just positionally better. Rook F8, bishop takes E7, queen E7. And then maybe, we consider taking at some point on F3, but you have a very strong outside passed pawn. Yeah, black is better. So I would mess this up and lose in time pressure. Yeah. So taking a draw here seems like a reasonable idea against the GM if you're much lower rated. Knight takes d4, and then he takes with the knight takes d4. And, well, that is based on the idea that if bishop f6, he has some sort of maybe knight check on c6. But your two bishops are pretty good. Oh, you played f3, threatening bishop g5. So after f3, you win the exchange. You're going to win the exchange. Yeah, you should play for a win. This is a strong move. You force bishop g5, right? So he trades his bad bishop. You play like bishop g5, you're winning the exchange. Yeah, of course you should consider playing for a win here. It's a GM. You should consider it. Depends on the time. If you're in time pressure or something, maybe I could see offering a draw. Otherwise, I think you should go for it. You're up the exchange for a pawn. I think there's relatively low risk. Yeah. I'm not sure which way he would take, though. Yeah, maybe he takes the other way. Now you have to give up your bishop. Bishop takes, bishop g5. And then he tries to blockade. But yeah, no, you should play for a win. It's not ever easy to judge, though. I was like up a pawn against Beliavsky once, and I offered a draw. I mean, it's not easy when you're better. It's maybe not winning, but it does seem low risk, though. It's easy to say in retrospect you shouldn't offer a draw, but you never know. Like maybe he would like decline it and go crazy or something. Anyway, good game. All right, guys, I gotta go. Thanks for tuning in. I'm off to lose more games tomorrow, so I'll see you all. No stream tomorrow. I'll see you all on. No, tomorrow's Friday, right? Yeah, no stream tomorrow. I'll see you guys all on Sunday for a simul stream. I do a classical simul every Sunday in the 6:37 evening time. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Good games. Later. Bye-bye.